Howdy folks, it's the second week of January 2026, and welcome to This Week in the West. I'm Seth Spillman, broadcasting from the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. On this podcast, we share stories of the people and events that shape the history, art, and culture of the American West, and those still shaping it today. The story of Bass Reeves could have easily been erased from history. Instead, we remember him this week on the anniversary of his death, January 12, 1910, at a moment when the legendary Western lawman is finally receiving his due. Born enslaved in 1838 in Crawford County, Arkansas, Reeves entered life with no legal rights and no formal education. But that would not be the end of his story. Reeves was enslaved by Arkansas legislator William Steele Reeves and later by his son, George Reeves, a Texas sheriff, legislator, and Confederate officer. When George Reeves joined the Confederate Army at the start of the Civil War, he brought Bass with him. What happened next is not fully documented, but according to later accounts, an argument, possibly over a card game, led Bass Reeves to strike George Reeves and flee into the night sometime between 1861 and 1862. He escaped into Indian Territory, where his life truly began. Living among the Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole peoples, Reeves found refuge and opportunity. He learned their languages, customs, and ways of moving across the land. He mastered tracking, survival, and diplomacy, skills that would later define his career. After emancipation, Reeves returned briefly to Arkansas, settling near Van Buren. He farmed and occasionally worked as a scout and guide for federal lawmen operating in Indian Territory. His reputation grew quickly. Known for his tracking skills and fluency in tribal languages, Reeves became indispensable. So when Judge Isaac C. Parker, infamously known as the Hanging Judge, took over the federal court at Fort Smith in 1875 and authorized the hiring of hundreds of deputy U.S. marshals to bring law into the Indian Territory, Reeves was an obvious choice. He was 37 years old and became one of the first black deputy U.S. marshals west of the Mississippi River. Reeves couldn't read or write, so he memorized every detail of every warrant before leaving Fort Smith. We recently added one of those warrants to our collection here at the museum, marked with Reeves's X as his signature. With a Bible in one coat pocket and his warrants in the other, Reeves patrolled tens of thousands of square miles of Indian and later Oklahoma territory for more than 3 decades. The region was notorious, a place where horse thieves, bootleggers, and murderers believed they could disappear. Indian Territory was among the most lawless places on the American frontier. Historians estimate Reeves made more than 3,000 arrests during his career. He's credited with killing at least 14 men in the line of duty. Remarkably, Reeves was never wounded, though accounts tell of bullets knocking his hat from his head more than once. He carried the standard weapons of his day, a Winchester rifle and a Colt single-action Army revolver, but it wasn't firepower as much as cunning that solidified Reeves' legend. Reeves often used disguises and careful strategy to capture fugitives who had evaded law enforcement for years. Nothing, not even family, stood between Reeves and his duty. In 1902, Reeves received a warrant for his own son, Benjamin Benny Reeves, accused of murdering his wife, Castella Brown. Reeves could have declined the assignment. Instead, he asked for the warrant himself. He rode out, found his son, and brought him in. Benny Reeves was convicted, sentenced to life at Fort Leavenworth, and served 11 years before being released for good behavior. He lived the rest of his life as a model citizen, a testament, perhaps, to the hard but honest justice delivered by his father. Reeves himself once stood trial after being charged with killing his cook during an expedition. Reeves testified the shooting was accidental, occurring while he was cleaning his gun. The case, United States v. Bass Reeves, was heard in Judge Parker's courtroom. Defended by former U.S. Attorney W.H.H. Clayton, a friend and colleague, Reeves was acquitted, with his spotless record carrying considerable weight. When Oklahoma became a state in 1907, Reeves, then 68 years old, joined the Muskogee Police Department. He served 2 more years before Bright's disease forced him to retire. He died on January 12, 1910. The stories of Bass Reeves spread quickly, feeding the nation's appetite for Western legends. His use of disguises, his strict moral code, and his skill as a lawman have often been cited as possible inspiration for the fictional character known as the Lone Ranger. Interest in Reeves' life saw a revival in the late 20th century. In 1992, he was inducted into the Hall of Great Westerners here at the Cowboy. In recent years, Reeves' story has reached even wider audiences. He became the subject of books, films, and television, including the 2023 series Lawman, Bass Reeves, created by Taylor Sheridan and starring David Oyelowo. Today, a statue of Bass Reeves stands in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and Fort Smith is home to the U.S. Marshals Museum, which opened in 2023 and prominently features Reeves among the many lawmen who served there. And with that, we've added another chapter to the legend with this episode of This Week in the West. Our show is produced by Chase Spivey and written by Mike Kaler. Follow us and rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. That'll help us reach more people. Come visit us in Oklahoma City. You can buy tickets online at thecowboy.org. Got a question or a suggestion? Drop us an email at podcast@thecowboy.org. We leave you today with the words of actor David Oyelowo, who portrays Reeves. Reeves is, to me, in that echelon of overcoming insurmountable odds to achieve unbelievable things, despite all of the challenges that were in his way. Much obliged for listening, and remember, come find your West here at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum.